Poor girl starts tutoring the billionaire's son at school. When his father sees, he does something unbelievable. The school playground was almost empty when Henry sat on the concrete bench, far from the other groups of children. The crumpled paper in his small hands held numbers that seemed to dance on the page, mocking him with every failed attempt to decipher them. 5 is a cruel age to feel dumb. He bit his lower lip, a habit he had developed in recent weeks, and looked around. The other children were playing tag, their joyful screams echoing across the playground as a constant reminder that he was alone. Always alone. Even when surrounded by people, Henry carried a loneliness that seemed bigger than his small body. The math worksheet was covered in scribbles from his wrong attempts, numbers crossed out, erased, rewritten. His teacher, Mrs. Thompson, had said it was easy, just adding and subtracting up to 10, but to Henry, those symbols might as well have been Egyptian hieroglyphs. He sighed and let his shoulders slump, defeated before he even began. The afternoon wind rustled the leaves of the trees around the playground, creating shadows that danced on the ground. Henry watched an ant carry a crumb 3 times its size, walking determinedly along a crack in the concrete. Even the ant seemed smarter than him. "Why does it have to be so hard?" he mumbled to no one, his voice lost in the distant noise of the other children. The question echoed in his head, as it always did when he tried to do his homework. It was the same feeling of being lost in a maze where everyone else had already found the exit. His classmates finished their exercises quickly, their hands flying across the paper while Henry was still trying to understand the first problem. He tried one more time, 4 plus 3. He counted on his fingers hidden under the bench, but he always got confused halfway through. Was it 7 or 8? The numbers seemed to flee from his mind the moment he thought he had understood. It was then that a shadow appeared beside him. Henry looked up and saw a girl he didn't know. She had blonde hair that shone like threads of gold in the afternoon sun, and light blue eyes as clear as the sky after a storm. Her clothes were simple, a pink cotton shirt a little too big for her, and a denim skirt that had seen better days, but was clean and well ironed. What caught Henry's attention the most, however, were her shoes. They had once been white. He could tell from the small parts that still held their original color. Now they were an undefined shade between gray and beige, with small holes that revealed colorful striped socks underneath. The sole of the right one was peeling away, making a little flapping sound with each step. Even so, they looked cared for, as if someone scrubbed them lovingly every morning. The girl said nothing at first. She just sat next to Henry on the bench, her legs dangling in the air because they were too short to touch the ground. She looked at the crumpled sheet in his hands and tilted her head, curious, like a little bird observing something interesting. "Want some help? I know how to do this," she said finally, her voice soft and melodious. Henry hesitated. No one ever offered to help him with anything. In fact, no one ever came near him, except to ask him to move or to complain that he was getting in the way of a game. He studied the girl's face, searching for signs of mockery or impatience, but found only genuine kindness. "I can't understand it," Henry mumbled, his voice so low it was almost lost in the wind. "It's too hard." The girl smiled, and it was as if the sun had come out from behind a cloud. "Can I see?" Reluctantly, Henry handed her the crumpled sheet. She took it carefully, smoothing it gently on her knees as if it were something precious, not just another wrinkled homework assignment. Her eyes scanned the numbers attentively, but there was no judgment there, only pure concentration. "Oh, I see the problem," she said after a moment, nodding as if she had discovered something important. "You're overthinking it. Math doesn't have to be complicated. Look." She picked up a pencil that had fallen on the ground near the bench and began to draw little circles next to the numbers in the margin of the paper. Her movements were precise and delicate, each little circle perfectly round. "When you see 3 plus 2, don't think about the numbers first. Think of 3 little balls." She drew 3 circles, "and 2 more little balls." She added 2 more. "Now count all the balls. How many do you have?" Henry leaned closer, studying the simple drawings. He counted mentally, pointing discreetly at each circle. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5? Exactly. The girl clapped her hands softly, her eyes shining with genuine pride as if Henry had just solved the most complicated theorem in the world. You can do it. That's all it is. Want to try another one? For the first time in weeks, Henry felt a spark of hope light up in his chest. They worked on the next problem together, the girl drawing little stars this time to represent the numbers. When Henry miscounted, she didn't sigh impatiently or roll her eyes like some adults did. Instead, she smiled encouragingly. Almost there. Let's count together this time. They counted in unison, both of their fingers pointing to each drawing. Her voice was patient and musical, turning the arduous task into something almost fun. Henry discovered that when he stopped worrying so much and just followed her drawings, the numbers started to make sense. You should do it like this, she said, showing him how to arrange the problems in an order that made counting easier. See? First you draw the objects, then you count. That's much easier than trying to do it all in your head. Henry watched, fascinated not only by the method, but by the natural way she explained it. There was something magical in the way she turned the impossible into the possible, as if math were just a game whose rules he hadn't learned yet. You're smart, he exclaimed when he finally managed to solve a problem completely on his own, using the little drawings method. The girl laughed, a crystal clear sound that warmed Henry's heart in a way he couldn't explain. You're smart too, Henry. You just needed someone to show you a different way of thinking. Henry blinked, surprised. You know my name? Of course I do. We go to the same school, she replied naturally, though Henry was sure he had never seen her before. I'm Tessa, and now let's finish this whole assignment. What do you say? I bet you can do the rest by yourself. Her name echoed in Henry's mind, Tessa. It was a pretty name, one that suited her. As they worked side by side, Henry discovered something he didn't know existed, the feeling of not being alone with his struggles. Tessa didn't just help him with the numbers, she listened when he talked, laughed at his little jokes, and treated him as if he were interesting and capable. Time flew by. The playground grew emptier as other children were picked up by their parents or went to after-school activities. But Henry and Tessa remained in their little world of numbers and colorful drawings. The worksheet, once a symbol of failure and frustration, was now filled with correct answers and little illustrations in the margins. So, very good. Tessa celebrated when he got 3 problems right in a row without help. You're getting the hang of it. It's just a matter of practice now. Henry felt different, as if something inside him had been fixed. The feeling of stupidity and inadequacy that had followed him for weeks was beginning to fade, replaced by a shy but real confidence. He could learn. He just needed someone who believed in him. They laughed together when Henry drew a lopsided star to represent the number 6. Tessa didn't criticize the drawing. Instead, she drew an even more lopsided star next to it and said hers weren't perfect either. There's no such thing as perfect, she said with a smile. What's important is that you understand. Minutes passed like seconds. Henry was so focused on the exercises and Tessa's company that he didn't notice when a figure approached the playground. Vincent had left the office early, a rare occurrence in his packed schedule. He walked across the playground looking for Henry and stopped abruptly when he saw him. There was his son, laughing and talking animatedly with a blonde, light-eyed girl. Henry was leaning over a sheet of paper, pointing at something and explaining it to her. His eyes were sparkling in a way Vincent hadn't seen in a very long time. The girl next to Henry wore simple but well-kept clothes. Her shoes immediately caught Vincent's attention. They were old, worn high with small holes and a sole peeling away on one side. But she didn't seem to mind. She was completely focused on helping Henry, her delicate fingers pointing to the numbers on the paper. Now you try this one by yourself, she said, encouraging Henry. Vincent watched, motionless, as Henry worked on the problem. When the boy solved it, he shouted with joy, I did it! I really did it! The girl clapped and smiled, genuinely happy for his success. I knew you could do it. Henry hugged the sheet of paper to his chest as if it were a treasure. His face radiated a pure happiness that made something tighten in Vincent's chest. Done, Tessa announced when they finished the last problem. You did almost all of it yourself. See how smart you are. Thank you, Tessa, Henry said, his voice full of gratitude. "You're the best teacher in the world." Tessa laughed and stood up, brushing off her skirt. "I'm not a teacher. I'm just your friend. And friends help each other, right?" Vincent felt something swell in his chest as he watched the scene, gratitude for the girl's kindness, empathy as he noticed her worn shoes and simple clothes, and a strange sense of absence, as if he were seeing something important he had missed. "If you need help again, just look for me," Tessa said, already walking away. Henry waved enthusiastically, carefully putting the paper away. He watched until Tessa disappeared among the other children, a huge smile on his face. Vincent approached slowly, still processing what he had witnessed. When Henry saw him, he ran towards him with the sheet held out. "Dad, look. I did all the exercises." Vincent took the sheet and examined the correct answers. The small drawings in the margins, Henry's careful handwriting. Everything was right. "Who helped you with this?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "Tessa. She taught me a new way to do it. Look, Dad." Henry pointed to the little drawings. "Instead of thinking about the numbers, I draw things and count them. It's so much easier." Vincent looked into his son's shining eyes and felt that something fundamental had changed that afternoon. A strange girl, with worn-out shoes and a generous heart, had given Henry back something he thought was lost: self-confidence. "She's really nice, Dad. I think I'm going to be good at math now." Vincent nodded, a resolution forming in his mind. He needed to meet this girl. He needed to understand who the child was who had transformed his son's afternoon with such simplicity and care. "Shall we go home?" Vincent asked, running a hand through Henry's hair. "Let's go. I can't wait to show Grandma that I did it all by myself." As they walked toward the car together, Vincent carried in his chest the certainty that this afternoon had marked the beginning of something new. Henry had found someone who believed in him, and Vincent had witnessed the transformative power of pure kindness. The car was silent, as Vincent adjusted the rearview mirror and started the engine. Henry had settled into the back seat, still holding the worksheet as if it were a treasure. His legs swung in the air, too short to reach the floor, and he gazed out the window with a smile that seemed glued to his face. Vincent watched his son in the rearview mirror. There was something different about Henry today, not just the success with the exercises, but something deeper, a lightness he hadn't seen in a long time. "How was school today?" Vincent asked, pulling out of the parking lot. "It was good," Henry answered, but his voice carried an excitement he couldn't hide. They drove a few blocks in silence. Vincent could sense that Henry wanted to talk about something but didn't know how to start. At the next traffic light, Vincent tried again. "That girl who helped you, is she in your class?" Henry fiddled with the paper, smoothing its edges. "I'm not sure. I've never seen her in my classroom before." "But you talked for a long time." "Yeah," Henry hesitated, choosing his words. "Dad, can I tell you something?" Vincent felt something tighten in his chest. It had been so long since Henry had asked to tell him something important. "Of course, son. You can tell me." Henry looked at the sheet in his hands and then out the window. His voice came out softer. "I understood it with her. The math, I mean, but I'm embarrassed to ask in class." Vincent slowed down, paying closer attention to the conversation. "Embarrassed? Why?" "Because everyone else already knows how to do this stuff. I'm the only one who can't. The teacher explains it once and everyone gets it except me." The boy's voice was getting shaky, and Vincent felt his heart break. He had never realized Henry felt this way at school. "In class, when Mrs. Thompson asks if anyone has a question, I want to raise my hand, but..." Henry sighed. "Everyone will laugh at me." Vincent stopped at the next light and turned to look directly at Henry. The boy had his head down, fiddling with the edge of the paper. "Henry, son, you know you can ask me anything, right? If you don't understand something at school, you can tell me all about it." Henry looked up, and Vincent saw something in his eyes that made him swallow hard. It was a mix of desire and resignation, as if the boy wanted to believe but couldn't. "But you're always busy," Henry said with a sincerity that cut Vincent like a blade. The light turned green, but Vincent didn't move. Other people honked behind him, but he barely registered the sound. Henry's words echoed in his head. Always busy. It was true. How many times had Henry tried to talk to him and he had said, "Later, just a minute. Daddy's on an important call." How many times had he come home too late, Fires, when Henry was already asleep? "Henry," Vincent began, but he didn't know how to continue. A heavy pause settled in the car. Vincent finally accelerated as the cars behind him started honking more, but his mind was far from the traffic. "Dad?" Henry's voice came softly from the back seat. "Yes, I think she's my friend." Vincent glanced in the rearview mirror and saw that Henry's face had lit up again. The smile was back, small but genuine. "Tessa?" "Yeah. She didn't make a face when I didn't know the answer, and she didn't make me feel dumb." Henry swung his legs, excited. "She said she has trouble sometimes too, and that it's okay not to know everything." Vincent felt something warm grow in his chest. "She sounds like a very special girl." "She is, and you know what else?" Henry leaned forward, resting his arms on the driver's seat. "She said she'll help me again if I need it. She said that's what friends do." The word friends came out of Henry's mouth with a joy Vincent hadn't heard in a long time. When was the last time his son had talked about a friend? "That's great, Henry. Having a friend who helps you is important." "Dad, do you think she'll want to play with me tomorrow?" The hope in Henry's voice was almost tangible. Vincent could hear the anxiety beneath the excitement, the fear that this new friendship was just a one-time thing. "I'm sure she will. If she said she'll help you, she must be a girl of her word." Henry smiled and leaned back in his seat, hugging the worksheet. "She's nice, Dad, really nice. And she has funny shoes, kind of old, but she doesn't care." "I think that's brave." Vincent blinked, surprised by Henry's mature observation. The boy had noticed Tessa's worn shoes, but instead of judgment, he had seen courage. "Why do you think it's brave?" "Because some kids make fun when someone has different clothes, but she doesn't seem to care. She's just herself." Vincent drove in silence for a few moments, processing his son's words. 5-year-old Henry had grasped something about Tessa that many adults would take a long time to see. "And she treated me like I was normal," Henry continued, his voice growing softer. "Not like I was the boy who can't learn." That sentence hit Vincent like a punch. Henry saw himself that way. As the boy who couldn't learn. How had he let that happen? "Henry, you're not the boy who can't learn. You're smart. You just learn in a different way." Henry shrugged, as if he had heard that before but didn't believe it. "Tessa made me understand that. She said everyone has their own way of learning." Vincent felt a wave of gratitude for this unknown girl. In one afternoon, she had given Henry something that he, as a father, had been failing to provide. "Dad?" "Yes, son?" "Thanks for coming early today. It was nice that you were there." Vincent swallowed hard. Henry had noticed he'd arrived earlier, and he had liked it. It was a reminder of how many times he had been late, always in a rush. "You're welcome, Henry. And I'm going to try to come earlier more often." "Really?" Henry's eyes lit up. "Really. In fact, how about I help you with your homework tonight? We can use the method Tessa taught you." Henry practically jumped in his seat. "Can we? Then I can teach you how to do the little drawings. You'll see how easy it is." Vincent smiled, feeling something warm in his chest. When was the last time Henry had been excited to do homework? "I would love to learn from you," Vincent said, and he truly meant it. They were getting close to home when Henry spoke again. "Dad, do you think Tessa will want to come over to play someday?" The question caught Vincent by surprise. Henry had never invited a child over to the house before. "If you become really good friends, I think so. But first, you two need to get to know each other better at school." "Yeah, you're right," Henry nodded. "I'll talk to her more tomorrow. Maybe she'll want to sit with me at lunch." Vincent parked in the garage and turned off the engine. Before they got out, he turned to look at Henry. "Son, thank you for telling me about Tessa and about how you feel at school. It's important for me to know these things." Henry smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "You're welcome, Dad. It was good talking to you." As they got out of the car, Vincent carried a mix of emotions in his chest. Guilt for having been so absent, gratitude for an unknown girl who had changed Henry's day, and hope that maybe it wasn't too late to reconnect with his son. Henry ran into the house, waving the paper in the air. "I'm going to show Grandma that I did it all." Vincent followed him more slowly, a resolution growing in his mind. He needed to find Tessa. He needed to understand who the girl was that had given Henry back the confidence he had lost. The next day, Vincent arrived at the school 15 minutes before dismissal. This time, there were no urgent meetings calling him back to the office, no important calls that couldn't wait. He had rearranged his entire schedule to ensure he would be there when Henry got out of class. The playground was bustling with children running back and forth, parents chatting in small groups, and teachers organizing the dismissal lines. Vincent searched for Henry among the children, but also kept his eyes open for any sign of the blonde girl who had transformed his son's previous afternoon. While waiting, Vincent observed the other families around. There were elegant mothers in expensive cars, uniformed nannies waiting patiently, and a few fathers like him, coming straight from work in suits and with tense expressions. It was an environment that breathed privilege and stability, which made Tessa's presence the day before even more intriguing. "Mr. Morgan," a female voice called him. Vincent turned and saw Mrs. Thompson, Henry's teacher, approaching with a genuine smile on her face. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Thompson. It's so good to see you here early today. I really wanted to talk to you about Henry." Vincent felt his stomach tighten automatically. Since the conversation in the car yesterday, he was hyper-aware of how many important things he might be missing about his son's school life. "Is there a problem?" he asked, bracing for bad news. On the contrary, Mrs. Thompson practically radiated enthusiasm. Henry was completely different today. He actively participated in class, asked intelligent questions, and most impressively, he offered to explain a new method for solving math problems to the whole class. Vincent blinked, surprised. He explained it to the whole class. Yes, it was absolutely incredible. He went to the board with a confidence I had never seen in him and started drawing little circles and stars to represent the numbers. The other children were fascinated. Several students who had also been struggling began to understand concepts we'd been working on for weeks. Mrs. Thompson shook her head, still impressed. "Honestly, Mr. Morgan, in 5 years of teaching, I've never seen such a complete transformation in a child. It's as if someone turned on a light inside him." Vincent's chest swelled with pride. Henry had found the courage not only to use the method Tessa had taught him, but to put himself in the position of a teacher, sharing knowledge with his peers. Now that's wonderful. He mentioned that a friend taught him this method, a girl named Tessa. Mrs. Thompson tilted her head, curious. "Do you know who she is?" "I don't have any Tessa enrolled in my class." Vincent shook his head. "I'm also trying to find out who she is. Henry met her here on the playground yesterday." "How interesting." "Well, whoever this girl is, she worked a real miracle with Henry. If we find out where she's from, maybe we can invite her to participate in a class project." Just then, Henry came running across the playground, his backpack bouncing on his back and a huge smile dominating his face. "Dad, you came early again," he shouted, throwing himself into Vincent's arms. "I did. Mrs. Thompson was just telling me you were the teacher of the class today." Henry blushed, but his smile grew even wider. "I used Tessa's method. Everyone really liked it. Even Marcus, who always teases, everyone got interested and asked if I could teach him too." "I'm very proud of you, son." Henry practically glowed with the praise. Tessa was right. She said sometimes we know more than we think. We just need the courage to show it. Vincent said goodbye to Mrs. Thompson, and they walked towards the car together. Along the way, he couldn't stop observing the difference in his son. Henry walked with his shoulders back, his head held high, greeting other children. "Did you see Tessa today?" Vincent asked as they got near the car. Henry looked around the playground, searching among the groups of children. "No. I looked for her at recess, during lunch. I even asked to go to the bathroom just to walk around the school, but I didn't find her anywhere." The disappointment in Henry's voice was palpable. How about we stop by the office before we leave? We can ask about her officially." Henry's eyes lit up. "Can we? They must know where she is. The school office was relatively empty when they entered. A middle-aged woman with colorful glasses looked up from a pile of papers. "Good afternoon, how can I help you?" "Good afternoon. We're trying to locate a student named Tessa. My son met her here at school yesterday, but we can't figure out which class she's in." The secretary frowned and turned to her computer. "Tessa, do you know her last name?" Vincent and Henry looked at each other. "Unfortunately, we don't know her last name," Vincent admitted. The secretary continued typing. "About how old is she?" "About my age," Henry answered. "And she has really pretty blonde hair, like it's made of sunlight, and blue eyes that look like the sky after it rains." Henry's poetic description made the secretary smile. "What a beautiful description. Let me search for all the Tessas in the system." She searched for several minutes, clicking and typing, occasionally adjusting her glasses. Finally, she shook her head. "I'm sorry, but we don't have any Tessa enrolled in the school at the moment. Are you sure she studies here?" Vincent felt a pang of disappointment. "She was here on the playground yesterday afternoon, helping my son with his homework." "Ah," the secretary clapped her hands. "We had a visitor yesterday. A young lady named Diane came to offer homemade cookies to the school administration. She brought her little daughter with her." "Maybe that's who you're looking for." "Diane," Vincent repeated, committing the name to memory. "Is her daughter's name Tessa?" "I'm not sure of the girl's name, but the lady was with a very polite little blonde girl. Yes, she was interested in enrolling her daughter here, but..." The secretary hesitated. "But what?" "Well, she couldn't complete the enrollment process. She said she needed to resolve some financial issues first. She was very polite, but you could tell she was going through a hard time." Vincent felt something heavy settle in his stomach. "Do you have her contact information?" "I have the phone number she left, but I can't provide personal information." "School policy. You know how it is." "Of course, I understand. Thank you for your help." As they left the office, Henry tugged on his father's sleeve. "Dad, does this mean Tessa isn't coming back to school?" The sadness in the boy's voice was like a stab to Vincent's heart. He knelt to be at his son's eye level. "We don't know yet, Henry. But we'll keep looking for her, I promise. But how if she doesn't go to school here and we don't know where she lives?" Vincent could see tears starting to form in Henry's eyes. "We'll find a way, son. Sometimes things have a way of working themselves out." They walked in silence to the car. Vincent was lost in thought, trying to process all the information. Tessa wasn't enrolled in the school. Her mother, Diane, had come to offer cookies, but couldn't complete the enrollment due to financial issues. That explained the worn shoes and the simple but well-kept clothes on the girl. "Dad," Henry said as they settled into the car, "do you think Tessa is okay?" The question caught Vincent by surprise. "Oh, why do you ask that, son?" "Because she seemed sad yesterday, even when she was helping me, like she was worried about something." Vincent looked at Henry in the rearview mirror, impressed by the boy's sensitivity. At 5 years old, Henry had noticed emotional nuances that many adults would have missed. "You're very observant, Henry. And very kind to worry about her." "She was kind to me first. It's the least I can do." Vincent smiled, proud of his son's character. "If we find her again, we can ask if she needs anything." They drove towards home, but Vincent decided to take the long way, passing through some residential streets. It was a long shot, but maybe they'd be lucky enough to see Tessa and Diane by chance. The afternoon was sunny, and many people were out on the streets. Vincent drove slowly, both of them scanning the sidewalks for any sign of Tessa's blonde hair. They passed a park where several children were playing, and Henry pressed his face against the window, hopeful. But Tessa wasn't there. They passed a food court, a craft fair, a small library, nothing. Vincent was starting to feel foolish for this search when they stopped at the light on Central Avenue. "Dad!" Henry suddenly shouted. "It's her! It's Tessa!" Vincent followed his son's gaze and felt his heart skip a beat. There on the corner of the avenue was a young woman with brown hair tied in a ponytail, and next to her, unmistakably, a little girl with blonde hair shining under the sun. They were next to a small table covered with a blue and white checkered tablecloth. On the table were trays of homemade cookies arranged in neat rows. A handmade sign hung on the front of the table. Homemade cookies, made with love, $2 a dozen. The woman, who could only be Diane, wore a simple navy blue dress, clearly not new, but impeccably clean. There was a dignity in her posture that spoke of someone doing their best in difficult circumstances. Tessa was standing next to her mother, helping to arrange the cookies and smiling at the few passers-by who stopped to look. Even from a distance, Vincent could see the same natural kindness that had captivated Henry. Vincent felt a mix of emotions tighten in his chest as he took in the scene. Here was the explanation for everything: the worn shoes, the school visit without enrollment, Tessa's maturity. Mother and daughter were struggling, but facing it with dignity. "Dad, stop the car, please." Henry was bouncing in the back seat. "I have to talk to her." The light turned green, and for a moment Vincent hesitated. Would it be appropriate to approach a family on the street? But then he looked at Henry's eager face and made a decision. Instead of accelerating, he turned on his signal and pulled into the first parking spot he found, a few feet ahead of the corner. "Let's go, Henry." They got out of the car and walked back. Vincent could hear his own heart beating as they approached. Henry ran a few steps ahead, clearly anxious to see his friend. "Tessa!" Henry shouted when they got close enough. The girl looked up, and her face lit up instantly. "Henry, hi!" Diane looked in their direction, and Vincent saw genuine surprise in her eyes. She was younger than he had imagined, probably in her late 20s. There was a delicacy to her features that resembled Tessa, but also a subtle hardness that spoke of difficult experiences. "Tessa, I looked for you at school today," Henry said, vibrating with excitement. "I wasn't there today," Tessa replied, a bit shy, looking at her mother as if asking for permission. Vincent approached slowly, not wanting to frighten mother or daughter. "Excuse me," he said gently, addressing Diane. "I'm Vincent, Henry's father. I believe our children met yesterday." Diane studied him for a moment, clearly cautious. "Yes," Tessa told me. She said she helped a boy with his math. "She did much more than that," Vincent said, keeping his voice calm and respectful. "She gave my son back something I thought he had lost forever." Diane tilted her head, curious, but still reserved. "I don't understand." Vincent chose his words carefully. Henry was struggling in school. He had lost his self-confidence. Yesterday, after Tessa helped him, he came home smiling for the first time in months. Today, he taught her method to his entire class. Diane's face softened, and Vincent saw motherly pride in her eyes. "Tessa has always been good with other children. She has a natural patience." Vincent glanced discreetly at the cookie table, at the handmade sign, at Tessa's worn shoes. The situation was becoming clear. "May I buy some cookies? They look delicious, and Henry was telling me you're both excellent bakers." "Of course," Diane brightened. "We have chocolate chip, oatmeal raisin, and sugar and cinnamon, all made at home this morning, no preservatives." "I'll take 2 dozen mixed 'em, please," Vincent said, taking out his wallet. As Diane packed the cookies in brown paper bags decorated with little drawings, clearly Tessa's work, Vincent watched the girl and Henry talking animatedly. Tessa was telling him about how she had helped her mom make the cookies, while Henry listened, fascinated. "That will be $6 in total," Diane said, holding out the bags. Vincent handed her a $20 bill. "Keep the change." Diane blinked, shocked. "Sir, that's too much." "It's not much. It's the least I can do for someone who did so much for my son." Diane accepted the money with a mix of gratitude and wounded dignity. "Thank you. This helps a lot." Vincent hesitated, then decided to be direct. "May I ask, are you two managing all right?" Tessa mentioned she was interested in going back to school. Diane's face closed off slightly, and Vincent regretted the question. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "I didn't mean to pry." "No, it's okay," Diane sighed. It's complicated." She looked at Tessa, who was showing Henry how to fold a napkin into a heart shape, and her expression softened. "I lost my job 2 weeks ago," she said quietly. I worked as an administrative assistant, but they had cutbacks and I was affected. I had to take Tessa out of private school because I can't afford it anymore. I'm trying to get a spot in a public school. But there's a waiting list. Vincent felt his heart sink. And the cookies were your idea? Actually, it was her idea. Diane smiled sadly. Tessa loves to bake with me. When she realized I was worried about money, she suggested we make cookies to sell. She said if they were tasty, people would want to buy them. How old is she? 6. She'll be 7 in 3 months. Diane shook her head. Sometimes she seems older. Our situation has made her grow up too fast. Vincent looked at Tessa, who was now teaching Henry a clapping game, and felt a mix of admiration and sadness. This kind girl was facing hardship at home, yet she still maintained her ability to help others. Diane, he said, making a decision, may I ask about your professional experience? Do you have a background in administration? She nodded. 5 years at my previous company. I did everything. Customer service, file organization, scheduling, spreadsheets, some accounting tasks. Vincent took a deep breath. My office is in need of an administrative assistant. The salary isn't extraordinary, but it's stable, with health benefits. And there's a daycare in the building that serves children up to age 8. Tessa could stay there during work, and then we could work together to get her a spot in the public school. Diane stared at him in total shock. Are you offering me a job? I am. I want to help. Your daughter gave back something essential to my son, the will to learn. Here's the least I can do to repay that. For a moment, Diane was speechless. Vincent could see tears forming in her eyes. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Say you'll think about the offer. Here's my card. Vincent took a card from his wallet. When you decide, give me a call. Diane took the card with trembling hands. Why are you doing this? You don't know me. Vincent looked at Henry and Tessa, crouched down, drawing something on the ground. Because sometimes life introduces you to people who change everything, and when that happens, you have to pay attention. He turned to call Henry. Son, we have to go. Your grandmother is waiting for dinner. Henry ran to them, reluctant to say goodbye. Tessa, will I see you tomorrow? Tessa looked at her mother, uncertain. I don't know, maybe. I hope so, Henry said sincerely. You're my best friend. The comment made Tessa smile in a way that lit up her whole face. You're my best friend too, Henry. As they walked back to the car, Vincent carried the bags of cookies and a strange feeling in his chest. It wasn't just satisfaction from doing a good deed. It was something deeper, a sense that he had taken the first step towards something important, something that would change everyone's lives. Dad, Henry said, holding his hand, do you think Tessa will be able to go back to school soon? I hope so, son. I really hope so. When they reached the car, Vincent looked in the rearview mirror and saw Diane still standing on the corner, holding his card and watching them leave. Tessa waved out the window until they were out of sight. In the back seat, Henry was quiet, but Vincent could feel the hope radiating from him. His son had found a true friend, and Vincent had found a way to repay the gift that friendship had brought into their lives. The morning was sunny as Vincent parked at the school entrance. In the back seat, Henry practically vibrated with anxiety and anticipation, his hands repeatedly squeezing and releasing the straps of his backpack. It had been 3 days since their meeting on the street corner, 3 days since Diane had called to accept the job offer, and today would be Tessa's first day as an official student at the school. Do you think she's here yet, Dad? Henry asked for the 10th time since they left home, his face pressed against the window, trying to see through the crowd of children on the playground. I don't know, son, but if she's not here yet, she will be soon. Diane said she'd be here bright and early. Vincent was also anxious, though for different reasons. Over the last 72 hours, he had moved mountains to make this day possible. Calls to the school office to expedite Tessa's enrollment, a quick trip to the school uniform store, and even a discreet conversation with Mrs. Thompson to ensure the 2 children would be in the same class. When they got out of the car, Henry immediately began searching for Tessa among the groups of children arriving for another school day. His eager gaze swept the playground, stopping on every blonde girl he saw, only to find it wasn't her. There! Henry suddenly shouted. pointing towards the main school gate. "Dad, it's her." Vincent followed his son's gaze and felt an involuntary smile spread across his face. There was Tessa, walking beside Diane towards the school building, but this time she was unrecognizable. The navy blue and white school uniform was impeccable, clearly new and perfectly fitted to her small frame. The white sneakers on her feet shone clean and new, without a single scuff, a stark contrast to the worn shoes she had worn just a few days earlier. On her back, she carried a new pink backpack with little gold stars, and Vincent could see it was full of new school supplies. But what caught Vincent's attention the most was Tessa's posture. She walked tall with confidence, her head held high and a genuine smile on her face. There was a lightness to her step that hadn't been there when they met her selling cookies on the corner. "Tessa!" Henry shouted, running towards his friend. The girl looked towards the voice, and her face lit up like the rising sun. "Henry," she replied, also running to meet him in the middle of the playground. They met in a spontaneous and enthusiastic hug, both laughing and talking at the same time, their voices blending into a melody of pure happiness. "You look beautiful in the uniform," Henry said, stepping back to admire his friend. "Thank you. Your mum helped me pick everything out yesterday." "Look," Tessa twirled, making the uniform skirt spin around her legs. "And look at my new backpack. It's awesome, and we're going to be in the same class. Mrs. Thompson told me yesterday." Tessa's eyes widened with excitement. "Really? In the same class?" "Yes, and I already saved the seat next to mine for you. Want to sit with me?" "Of course I do." Tessa clapped her hands. "It's going to be the best thing ever." Vincent watched the interaction between the two children and felt something warm spread through his chest. The transformation in Henry was almost magical. In the last few days, since learning that Tessa would be coming to the school, he had become a completely different child, more talkative, more confident, more happy. Diane approached, carrying a folder of documents. She was different too, wearing a new, elegant work outfit, her hair neatly styled, and there was a renewed dignity in her posture. "Good morning, Vincent." "I don't know how to thank you for all of this." "No need to thank me, Diane. Seeing these two children this happy is more than enough." Tessa barely slept from so much excitement. She stayed up late organizing and reorganizing her new backpack. Vincent laughed. Henry, too. He got up an hour early today to make sure he'd get here before Tessa. They watched the children animatedly discussing their new school supplies, the subjects they would have together, and the games they could play at recess. It was as if they had been friends for years, not just a few days. "Dad," Henry called, running back with Tessa by his side. "Can we go inside?" "I want to show Tessa where our classroom is." "Of course, you can go. I'll go with Diane to the office to finish the last of the enrollment papers." The two children ran off hand in hand towards the school building, their laughter echoing across the morning playground. Vincent and Diane followed more slowly, taking the opportunity to discuss the practical details of the new arrangement. "How is she adjusting to the daycare at the office?" Vincent asked as they walked. "Very well." The other children were very welcoming, and the caregivers are wonderful. "Yesterday she made 3 new friends and came home telling me about all the activities they did." "And you? How are you feeling about the new job?" Diane smiled, and Vincent noticed it was the first time he had seen her smile in a completely relaxed way. "It's different from what I was used to, but in all the good ways. Your team has welcomed me warmly, and I'm already starting to get the hang of the routine." They reached the school door just as the first bell rang, indicating that classes would begin in a few minutes. Through the windows, Vincent could see Henry showing Tessa around the classroom, pointing to different corners and enthusiastically explaining the class routines. "Dad, look at how different he is," Diane observed, following Vincent's gaze. "Tessa, too. For the past few months, since we lost our stability, she had become quieter, more withdrawn. Today, she woke up singing." Vincent nodded, watching Henry help Tessa arrange her supplies in the desk next to his. It's amazing how friendship can transform a child." "It's more than friendship," Diane said softly. "It's hope. Hope that things can get better, that they're not alone in the world." Mrs. Thompson appeared at the classroom door, smiling as she saw the two children already settled and talking quietly while organizing their notebooks. "It seems our new student has already adapted perfectly," she said, approaching Vincent and Diane. Henry was telling the whole class about the new friend who was coming today. The other children are curious to meet her. "She's a special girl," Vincent said. "I'm sure she'll get along with everyone. If she's half of what Henry has shown since he met her, she will be a wonderful addition to our class." The second bell rang, and Mrs. Thompson headed into the room. "Well, time to start. Tessa, dear, welcome to our school." Tessa waved shyly at the teacher, but when she looked at Henry beside her, all shyness vanished. She was home. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of activities. During recess, Vincent decided to stay at the school a little longer, curious to see how the two children would behave together in the school environment. What he saw left him completely moved. Henry and Tessa were inseparable. Where one went, the other followed. At recess, they played tag with other children, and Vincent noticed how Henry had become braver, more willing to join groups. When Tessa suggested they play school, with her as the teacher, Henry not only agreed, but convinced 3 other children to join in. "Look at that," Diane murmured beside Vincent, both watching from a distance. "She's teaching the other kids the same method she taught Henry." It was true. Tessa had found a stick and was drawing in the dirt, patiently explaining a math problem to a growing group of curious children. Henry was by her side, helping and encouraging the classmates who were struggling. "They make a good team," Vincent observed. At lunchtime, the two children sat together, sharing not only food but stories, laughter, and plans for the rest of the day. Vincent could see other children approaching, drawn by the genuine joy radiating from the small group. "Henry," one of the children called, "can you teach us that math trick again?" Vincent saw his son light up with the attention, but instead of showing off, he immediately looked at Tessa. "Tessa taught me. She explains it better than I do." "Let's teach them together," Tessa suggested with a smile. "That way it's easier for everyone." And there, on the school playground during the lunch break, Henry and Tessa improvised a small math lesson for 6 other children. Vincent watched his son transform before his eyes. Where there was once insecurity and fear of judgment, there was now confidence and natural leadership. "Now Henry feels strong with her by his side," Vincent mumbled to himself, finally understanding the full power of true friendship. When classes ended in the late afternoon, Vincent was waiting on the playground with other parents. Henry and Tessa ran out of the classroom, their faces glowing with happiness. "Dad!" "It was the best day of my life," Henry shouted, throwing himself into Vincent's arms. "Tell me everything." "Tessa sat next to me all day, and during math, Mrs. Thompson let us go to the front and explain the drawing method to the whole class. Everyone understood. And at recess," Tessa added, still breathless from running, "Henry introduced me to all his friends." "Well, now they're my friends too." "We're going to study together every day," Henry continued, "and play together, and do all the projects together. Tessa is the best partner in the world." Vincent looked at the two children, their faces radiant with pure happiness, and felt his heart fill completely. This had been more than just a good deed. It had been the beginning of something transformative for everyone involved. "Shall we go home?" he asked, knowing he would have a lot to talk about with Henry on the way. "Let's go," Henry replied, still vibrating with excitement. Diane approached to pick up Tessa. "See you tomorrow, Henry. See you tomorrow, Tessa." "It'll be even better than today." As they walked toward the car, Vincent watched Henry practically float with happiness. His son had found more than a friend. He had found confidence, strength, and the certainty that he was not alone in the world. In the car, Vincent knew he needed to talk to Henry about everything that had happened. There was so much to say, so much to understand about this incredible transformation he was witnessing. The car had been moving for only a few minutes when Vincent noticed Henry had gone quiet in the back seat. After all the excitement of leaving school, his son's sudden silence caught him by surprise. In the rearview mirror, he could see Henry looking out the window, his small fingers fidgeting with his backpack strap. "How did you feel today, son?" Vincent asked, turning down the radio. Henry continued to look out the window for a moment before answering, It was the best school day I've ever had, Dad. That's great. Tessa seemed to be adjusting well, too. She's amazing, Henry sighed softly. Everyone liked her. And when we were together, I felt different. Different how? Braver, like I could do anything. Henry finally turned to look at Vincent in the rearview mirror. It's weird having a real friend, Vincent smiled. Weird how? Good weird. Like when you're really hungry and suddenly someone gives you your favorite candy. The innocent comparison made Vincent chuckle softly. I understand perfectly. They drove in silence for a few more blocks. The traffic was heavier than usual, giving them both more time to process the day. Vincent watched Henry in the mirror, noticing how the boy seemed to be lost in thoughts too deep for a 5-year-old. Dad? Henry said suddenly, his voice lower than usual. Yes? Can I ask you something? Of course, son. You can ask anything. Henry hesitated, biting his lower lip as he always did when he was nervous. Do you think Mum would have liked Tessa? The question caught Vincent completely off guard. He felt something tighten in his throat and had to blink a few times before he could answer. I'm absolutely sure she would have, Henry. Your mum loved kind children like Tessa. I think so too. Henry nodded thoughtfully. Tessa has the same caring way Mom did. Vincent stopped at the next traffic light and turned completely to look at Henry. It was rare for his son to mention his mother so directly. Do you think about her a lot? Every day. Henry looked down. Especially when good things happen. Like today. I wish I could tell her about Tessa, about how I felt strong today. The light turned green, but Vincent took a moment to accelerate. Henry's words echoed in his mind, heavy with a longing he knew all too well. You know, Henry, I believe that somehow she knows. Mums always know when their children are happy. Do you really think so? I do. They continued driving, but now the silence had a different quality. It wasn't uncomfortable, but reflective, as if father and son were sharing something important without needing words. It was when they were just 2 blocks from home that Henry spoke again, his voice even softer. Dad, can I tell you something I always think about but never say? Vincent felt his heart race. Of course, oh son, you can tell me. Henry took a deep breath, as if preparing for something difficult. I miss Mom, a lot. And sometimes I wonder. He paused, struggling to find the right words. I wonder what? Will I ever have a mom again? The question cut Vincent like a blade. He wasn't prepared for such a deep conversation, so laden with hope and vulnerability. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. He parked the car in the garage, turned off the engine, and turned completely to face Henry. The boy was looking at him with big and expectant eyes, waiting for an honest answer. Vincent chose his words carefully. Henry, I don't know what the future holds for us. Maybe yes, maybe no. But one thing I know for sure. What? Vincent felt emotion rise in his voice. I know that now we are more together than we were before, and that's a lot. It's more than a lot, actually. Henry tilted his head, processing his father's words. What do you mean, more together? Before, I was always rushing, always busy, always thinking about work. But since we met Tessa and Diane, since I saw how you changed, I realized I was missing the most important thing in my life. What thing? You, son. I was missing you. Henry blinked, surprised. But I was always here. You were always physically here, but I wasn't really present. I wasn't paying attention to what you needed, to what you were feeling. Vincent took a deep breath. That's going to change, Henry. I promise. How? Well, for starters, Vincent took his phone out of his pocket and, in front of Henry, turned it off completely. No phone when I'm home with you, no work after 6 in the evening, and no being late to pick you up from school. Henry's eyes widened. Really? Really? And you know what else? How about I help you with your homework every day? We can use the method Tessa taught you. Henry's face lit up completely. You really want to do homework with me? I do. In fact, I'm looking forward to learning these math tricks you two know. They got out of the car and walked to the front door together. Henry was visibly more cheerful, hopping a little with each step. "Dad, do you know what my favorite part of today was?" "What?" "When Mrs. Thompson asked the whole class what they thought of Tessa, everyone said she was nice, and then Marcus said I was lucky to have such a smart friend. No one has ever said I was lucky before." Vincent felt his heart warm. "You are lucky. And she's lucky to have you too." When they entered the house, Henry ran to his room to get his backpack. Vincent went to the kitchen and consciously left his phone in a drawer. When Henry returned with his books and notebooks, he found his father waiting at the dining room table with 2 glasses of milk and a plate of cookies. "Shall we start?" Vincent asked, pulling up a chair to sit beside his son. "Let's go," Henry replied, opening his math notebook. "Let me teach you how Tessa taught me to do it." Over the next hour, Vincent discovered a side of Henry he had never known. The boy was patient, explaining each step in detail, drawing little circles and stars to illustrate the problems. Vincent found himself impressed not only with his son's intelligence, but with his ability to teach. "Got it, Dad?" Henry asked after explaining the 3rd problem. "I did. You're an excellent teacher, Henry." Henry smiled, a smile unlike any Vincent had seen before. It was a smile of genuine pride, of self-confidence. Tessa said everyone has something they can teach others. I think I know how to teach math now. You certainly do. They continued to work together, side by side. Vincent helped with some harder words. Henry taught the math tricks. It was a natural, fluid partnership, as if it had always been this way. "Dad," Henry said as they were finishing the last exercise. "Yes. Thank you." "For what?" "For being here, for helping me, for—" Henry paused, searching for the words. "For being my real dad." Vincent felt his eyes well up. "Thank you too, son." "For what?" "For teaching me that being a father isn't just about working and giving you things. It's about being here like this together." Henry nodded seriously, as if he understood perfectly what Vincent meant. "It's much better this way." "Yes, it is. Much better." When they finished the homework, Henry put his supplies away with special care. "Tomorrow I'm going to tell Tessa that you helped me. She'll be happy." "Why?" "Because she always says things are easier when you have someone to help." Vincent watched his son get ready for bed that night and realized something fundamental had changed between them. The distance that had grown over the months, made of too much work, too little attention, and unprocessed grief, was starting to disappear. As he tucked Henry into bed, the boy held his hand. "Dad, even if I never have a mum again, it's okay, because now I know you're really here with me." Vincent kissed his son's forehead, feeling a mix of love, gratitude, and renewed determination. "I will always be, Henry. Always." That night, for the first time in a long time, both father and son slept peacefully, knowing they had finally found their way back to each other. The call came on a Friday afternoon, as Vincent was organizing some reports in his office. "Hi, Vincent. I hope I'm not bothering you." "Not at all, Diane. How are things?" "Very well. Tessa is loving school, and I wanted to thank you personally for everything. How about dinner at our place on Saturday? Nothing fancy, just a way to repay some of the kindness." Vincent hesitated for a moment. "It would be a pleasure. What can I bring?" "Just the 2 of you. I'll take care of the rest." On Saturday night, Vincent and Henry parked in front of a small apartment in a simple but well-kept neighborhood. The building was old, but the flower boxes in the windows showed that someone cared about keeping it beautiful. "Tessa's house," Henry said excitedly. Diane opened the door before they even rang the bell. She wore a simple navy blue dress, and there was something different about her face, a lightness that wasn't there before. "Welcome, Tessa!" Henry shouted as soon as he entered, and the 2 children hugged as if they hadn't seen each other in weeks. The apartment was small but cozy. Simple furniture, some clearly second-hand, but everything was impeccably clean. There were drawings by Tessa on the fridge, and well-cared-for plants in the windows. "Dad, come see my room," Tessa called, pulling Henry by the hand. "You can go," Diane said, laughing. "Dinner will be ready in 20 minutes. Vincent and Diane were left alone in the kitchen, where a delicious aroma of roasted chicken filled the air. Can I help with anything? You can open the wine that's on the table. It's nothing special, but I'm sure it's perfect. As Vincent opened the bottle, he could hear the children's laughter coming from the bedroom. It was a sound that always made him smile. Henry had become so much more cheerful. How have you been feeling with all these changes? Vincent asked, pouring the wine. Diane paused and looked out the window. Honestly, like I'm breathing for the first time in months. It must have been very difficult. It was. Much more than I let on. She accepted the glass. Tessa's father left us when she was 3. He just walked out one day and never came back. No explanation, not a word. I'm so sorry. The worst part wasn't that he left, it was the way he did it. As if we weren't even worth a conversation. Diane took a sip of wine. For a long time, I believed there was something wrong with me. Vincent nodded, recognizing the pain in her voice. That must have destroyed your confidence. It destroyed everything. The exhaustion was terrible. Working all day, taking care of Tessa at night, trying to keep everything running by myself. Some nights I would break down and cry myself to sleep. And now, Diane smiled, now I have hope again, a job I like, Tessa in a good school, stability. For the first time in years I can see a future, and your faith. I had completely lost faith in everything. In God, in people, in the possibility of things getting better. But then, you two showed up. She looked at him directly. And I realized that sometimes miracles come disguised as human kindness. Vincent felt something tighten in his chest. I should be the one thanking you. You've changed our lives too. How? Vincent took a sip of wine. After my wife died, I completely lost myself. I dove into work because it was easier than dealing with the pain, and I almost lost Henry too. Pain can blind us to what's important. Exactly. I was so focused on running from the sadness that I didn't notice Henry suffering alone. The guilt consumed me. Vincent paused. Guilt for not saving Sarah, for not being there for Henry, for being alive when she wasn't. And the loneliness. Terrible. Even being with Henry every day, I felt completely alone. Like I was living behind glass, watching life but not participating in it. From the living room came the continuous laughter of the children playing. It was impossible not to smile hearing it. Look at them, Diane said, peeking through the doorway. It's like they're siblings. Henry never had a real friend before Tessa. Seeing him like this made you realize what you were missing. Yes, and it made me want to change. Vincent looked at her. Thank you for raising such a special daughter. Her kindness saved my son. And your son's determination gave my daughter the strength to believe she can achieve anything. They stood in silence, listening to the children's laughter in the living room. It was a sound that filled the apartment with palpable joy. You know what I find most incredible? Diane said, taking the chicken out of the oven. Say what? How 2 children managed to show 2 lost adults the way back home. When they sat down for dinner, the children monopolized the conversation, talking about school projects and weekend plans. Vincent and Diane took turns asking questions, but they also exchanged meaningful glances. There was something happening there beyond gratitude. It was mutual recognition. 2 people who had been through different kinds of pain but understood each other. Dad, Henry said suddenly, Tessa told me you were both sad before you met us. Vincent and Diane looked at each other, surprised. It's true, Vincent replied, but we're not anymore. Why not? Tessa asked. Because sometimes people need each other to remember how to be happy again, Diane explained. Like us? Tessa smiled at Henry. Exactly like you two, Vincent confirmed. When the night ended, Henry gave Tessa a long hug. Thank you for the most delicious dinner in the world, he said to Diane. Thank you for coming. This house is better when you're here. Vincent hesitated at the door, feeling there was something more to be said. Vincent, Diane said quietly, thank you for listening to me today. It's been a long time since I've really talked to someone. Thank you too. I think we both needed to be heard. Maybe we can do this again soon. I'd like that very much. In the car, Henry fell asleep in the back seat. Vincent drove in silence, thinking about the evening. For the first time since Sarah's death, He had felt truly connected to another adult. The adults had listened to each other and found each other. It was the beginning of something new, something quietly growing in his heart. 3 weeks after the dinner at Diane's house, Vincent was in the school office talking to Mrs. Rodriguez about some administrative details when Mrs. Thompson appeared with a radiant smile on her face. "Mr. Morgan, how nice to see you here. I need to talk to you about Henry." Vincent felt his heart automatically race, but the teacher's cheerful expression immediately put him at ease. "I hope it's good news." "It's great news. Henry is completely transformed. In the last few weeks, he's become one of the most engaged students in the class." Mrs. Thompson practically beamed with pride. He raises his hand to answer questions, helps other classmates when they're struggling. And yesterday he even volunteered to present a project on marine animals to the whole school. Vincent blinked, surprised. Henry volunteered to present something publicly. Yes, and that's not all. That's not. He's more attentive during lessons, much calmer, and shows a confidence I had never seen in him before. It's like he's a completely different child. "And to what do you attribute this change?" Mrs. Thompson smiled. "To his friendship with Tessa, without a doubt. They're inseparable, you know. They work together on all their projects, study together at recess, and it's beautiful to see how they support each other." Vincent nodded, feeling a wave of gratitude for the girl who had entered their lives so unexpectedly. Tessa has been an incredible influence on Henry, but it's interesting to note that the influence is mutual. Henry gives her an emotional stability that makes her shine even brighter. They really are best friends in the purest sense of the word. "What do you mean?" "Well, when Henry has trouble with a concept, Tessa explains it with infinite patience until he completely understands. And when Tessa gets nervous or insecure about something new, Henry encourages and supports her until she feels confident. One strengthens the other in a way that's rare to see, even among adults." Mrs. Thompson leaned closer, as if sharing a secret. Yesterday, during math class, Henry solved a particularly difficult problem and immediately looked at Tessa. When she smiled and gave a little silent applause, his face lit up in a way that melted my heart. Vincent felt something warm grow in his chest. "Do they study together every day?" "Every day. During recess, while other children are playing, they often sit together under the big tree in the playground and do their homework, or review what they learned in class. Sometimes other children join them, and Henry and Tessa end up becoming impromptu tutors. That's incredible. It's more than incredible, Mr. Morgan. It's transformative. Henry has developed an academic confidence that reflects in all other areas. He talks more during lunch, participates in games at recess, and even his handwriting has improved significantly." Vincent shook his head, still processing the magnitude of the change. "And Tessa, how is she adapting?" "Tessa is blossoming beautifully. When she arrived, I could tell she was a child who had been through some hardships, but who had an impressive inner strength. Now, with the stability of school and her friendship with Henry, she's allowing herself to truly be a child." "What do you mean?" "She's more spontaneous. She laughs more. She asks silly questions that kids ask. She plays simple games. Before, she always seemed to be thinking about responsibilities that were too heavy for her age. Now she's free to just be a 6-year-old girl." Vincent smiled, thinking how happy Diane would be to hear this. In recent days, he had noticed a similar change in Diane herself. She was more relaxed, smiled more often, and seemed to have regained a lightness she had likely lost a long time ago. "Mrs. Thompson, may I ask something? As a professional, how do you see Henry's progress compared to other children who have gone through similar losses?" The teacher paused, choosing her words carefully. In 20 years of teaching, I've seen many children deal with the loss of a parent. Most take at least a full school year to find a new emotional balance. Henry achieved that in a matter of weeks, and a large part of the credit goes to Tessa and to the changes you yourself have made. What changes? You're more present, more involved. Henry constantly mentions how you do homework together, how you turn off your phone when you're with him, about the weekends you spend together. A child notices when they have their father's full attention. Vincent felt a pang of pride mixed with a little guilt for the lost time. I'm trying to be better, and you are succeeding. The combination of your renewed presence and his friendship with Tessa has created an environment where Henry can thrive. At that moment, the recess bell rang, and they could see through the office window. There were Henry and Tessa sitting under the big tree, surrounded by 3 other children. Tessa was drawing something in the dirt with a stick, while Henry pointed and explained, clearly helping to teach some concept. "Just look," Mrs. Thompson said softly. "They've turned that tree into the most popular study spot in the school." Vincent watched fascinated as his son, who just a month ago could barely speak in class, now led an impromptu study group with natural confidence. "You know what impresses me the most," Mrs. Thompson continued, "their generosity. I've never seen children so willing to share knowledge and help others. Yesterday, Jamie Peterson was crying because he couldn't understand division, and Henry and Tessa spent the entire recess helping him until he finally got it. They are special. They are. And they're creating a culture of mutual support in the class that is positively influencing all the other children." Vincent said goodbye to Mrs. Thompson and walked across the playground, observing the small study group from a distance. He didn't want to interrupt her, but he was curious to see how Henry behaved in this environment. What he saw filled him with pride. Henry was clearly in the role of co-leader, working in perfect harmony with Tessa to help their peers. When one of the children got a problem right, they both celebrated as if it were the most important achievement in the world. Later that same afternoon, Vincent was in his office when Diane knocked on the door. "May I come in?" "Of course." "How was your day?" Diane sat in the chair across from his desk, and Vincent immediately noticed something different in her posture. She seemed more confident, more self-assured. "Vincent, I need to tell you something. These last few days working here have been eye-opening for me." "In what way?" "I had forgotten what it feels like to be good at something. At my previous company, I always felt just adequate, never special. Here, for the first time in years, I feel truly competent and valued." Vincent leaned forward, interested. "Tell me more about that." "Well, you've given me real responsibilities, you trust my judgment, and you treat me like a true professional, not just someone who performs basic tasks. Yesterday, when you asked me to organize that presentation for the clients, and then praised my work in front of the whole team," Diane paused, emotional. "It had been a long time since I felt proud of something I had done." "Diane, you have a natural talent for organization and communication. Your ability to anticipate needs and solve problems before they happen is impressive." She blushed slightly. "Thank you. That means a lot coming from you." Vincent watched her for a moment, an idea forming in his mind. Over the past few weeks, he had noticed how Diane excelled at every task she was given. Her efficiency, attention to detail, and ability to deal with clients were exceptional. "Diane, can I make you a proposal?" "Of course." Vincent stood up and walked to the window, organizing his thoughts. "I've been watching your work, and honestly, you have everything I look for in a professional. Your dedication, competence, and integrity are exactly what this company needs." "Thank you, but let me finish." Vincent turned to her. "I want to offer you a promotion. Come work with me directly, as my executive assistant." Diane blinked, clearly surprised. "Executive assistant?" "Yes." "It would be a position with much more responsibility, a better salary, and you would work directly with me on all important projects. You would have your own office, an assistant, and participate in strategic meetings." "Vincent, I don't know what to say. It's an incredible opportunity, but, Diane hesitated, "I'm afraid I'm not qualified enough." "It's a huge responsibility." "Diane, look at me." Vincent sat on the edge of his desk, closer to her. "In 3 weeks, you have completely reorganized my filing system, improved our communication with clients, and implemented 2 procedural changes that are saving the company time and money. You are not only qualified, you are exactly what I need." Diane was silent for a long moment, clearly processing the proposal. Vincent could see the internal struggle between insecurity and ambition. "Can I have a few days to think about it?" "Of course, But don't take too long. I want to start this new structure as soon as possible. Diane smiled. Actually, I don't need a few days. I accept. Really. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. It's time for me to believe too. Vincent smiled broadly. Excellent. Let's start on Monday. When Diane left the room, Vincent felt pleased not only for the smart professional decision he had made, but for the opportunity to help someone regain their self-confidence. At the end of the day, when he went to pick up Henry from school, he found his son sitting on a playground bench with a pile of papers in front of him. "Hi, Dad. Look what I managed to do today." Henry held up a math worksheet, clearly done with care and precision. Vincent took the paper and examined it. All the answers were correct, the numbers were well written, and there were neat little drawings in the margins. "Look, Dad. Tessa explained how to organize the problems better, and I managed to finish everything by myself. Without anyone's help." Henry's voice was full of genuine pride. Vincent looked at his son, seeing not just the well-done work, but the confidence radiating from every pore. "I'm so proud of you, Henry. Very proud indeed." Vincent knelt and opened his arms. Henry threw himself into them with enthusiasm, and they hugged tightly in the middle of the school playground. It was a different hug from all the previous ones. There was no reservation, no emotional distance. It was the hug of a father and son who had finally found their way back to each other. "Dad, can I tell you a secret?" Henry whispered in Vincent's ear. "Of course, son. I don't feel sad anymore. I feel whole." Vincent tightened the hug, feeling tears of happiness form in his eyes. "Me too, Henry. I feel whole too." When they separated, Vincent looked at his son and saw something that had been missing for a long time. A truly happy, confident, and loved little boy. "Shall we go home and do more homework together?" "Let's go." "And tomorrow can I tell Tessa you said you were proud of me?" "You can tell anyone you want, son. I'm proud of you every day." As they walked to the car, Vincent reflected on the transformations that had occurred in recent weeks. Henry had become a confident and happy child. Diane had rediscovered her professional and personal worth. Tessa had found the stability and friendship she needed to blossom. And he had rediscovered what it meant to be a real father. Now, they were a real father and son. Finally, the Sunday was sunny when Vincent and Henry arrived at Diane's small apartment. This time, she was waiting for them in the backyard. A simple space that had been made cozy with some potted plants and a carefully restored wooden table. "What a beautiful place," Henry exclaimed, running immediately to where Tessa was sitting on the ground with paper and crayons spread around her. "Hi, Henry. Come see what I'm drawing?" Vincent watched the two children greet each other with the natural familiarity of siblings. It was incredible how they had developed such a deep connection in such a short time. "Welcome to our yard," Diane said, smiling as she approached. She wore a simple floral dress and had her hair down, looking more relaxed than Vincent had ever seen her. "It's perfect here, very cozy. I found this table on the street last week, a little sanding and varnish, and it's good as new." Diane gestured to a smaller table where trays were covered with colorful cloths. "I made some new cookies for us to try, and I prepared a simple lunch. What can I do to help? How about setting the table?" "The plates are in the basket." Vincent began to arrange plates and cutlery while watching Henry and Tessa on the ground. They were drawing something together, their heads close, talking softly and laughing occasionally. "They never get tired of drawing," Diane commented, pouring lemonade. "Henry never liked drawing before. He used to say he couldn't make anything pretty. Tessa has this ability to make people feel capable. It's a gift." They worked side by side in the small outdoor kitchen Diane had improvised. There was something natural in the way they moved together, as if it were an established routine. Lunch was cheerful and relaxed. The children told them about their plans for a science project they would do together, while Vincent and Diane took turns asking questions and sharing stories. It was exactly how Vincent imagined a family Sunday should be. After lunch, while the children went back to drawing, Vincent and Diane sat on the small porch with their coffees. From there, they could watch Henry and Tessa working on their artistic projects, completely absorbed. "Look at them," Vincent said softly. watching his son animatedly explain something to Tessa. It's hard to believe Henry was such a withdrawn child just a few months ago. Tessa has changed a lot too. She was carrying too many responsibilities for her age. Vincent took a sip of his coffee and fell silent, watching the scene. Finally, he turned to Diane. "I need to tell you something," he began, his voice thick with emotion. "Your daughter appeared and opened my eyes to my own son. She helped him believe in himself, and she taught me what it means to be truly present. I am so grateful you came into our lives." Diane felt her eyes well up. Without a word, she reached out and took Vincent's hand. They were both moved with a quiet and sincere emotion. "I'm grateful too," she whispered. "You gave us back our hope. I think we all found each other at the right moment." "Dad, Diane, come see," Tessa suddenly shouted. On the ground was a large drawing made with colorful crayons. Two houses side by side, one slightly larger than the other. Between the houses, a big red heart connecting them. Below, in carefully drawn letters, "Now we're a real family." "Can I hang it on the porch?" Tessa asked. "So everyone can see?" Diane and Vincent looked at each other, both visibly moved by the simplicity of the drawing. "Of course, sweetie," Diane said, helping Tessa fix the paper to the wall. Henry approached Vincent. "Dad, is what we wrote right?" Vincent knelt to be at his son's level. "It's more than right, Henry. It's perfect. Even if we don't live in the same house yet. Family isn't about living in the same place, you son. It's about caring for each other, being present and supporting one another. And we do all of that." Henry smiled and hugged Vincent. "Then we really are a family." Tessa joined the hug, followed by Diane. The four of them stood there, embraced in the small but love-filled yard, looking at the drawing that perfectly captured what they all felt. As the sun began to set, Vincent knew this Sunday would be a memory forever. A chosen family, built on love and the wisdom of two children who saw clearly what the adults took a while to understand. Now they were, indeed, a real family. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like, because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.